Shabbat Shalom, everyone. In the news, there's an amazing story right now about a man by the name of Johnny Perry. Johnny Perry lives in Detroit, Michigan, and for 23 years he has owned a jewelry store called J&M Jewelry Store in Detroit. But due to the COVID-19, he has had no business in the past few months. And so he came up with a very creative and original idea. He took all of his inventory, which is approximately $1 million worth of jewelry, gold, silver, diamonds, rings, necklaces, pearls, everything. And he divided it up into packages of $4,000 a piece worth of jewelry. And then he put a tracking device in each one of these pieces, and he went throughout the state of Michigan, taking canals and streams and hiking trips all over the state, and he hid all of these packages of jewelry throughout the state of Michigan. And now on August 1st, he's going to be selling tickets at $49 a piece for a massive treasure hunt, a scavenger hunt throughout the state of Michigan for people to go out and find these hidden treasures. Now, besides this being a very creative way of disposing of all of his inventory during a time of crisis, as they say, turning lemons into lemonade, he said that his point is that it's all about the memories. He wanted to do something fun and exciting during this time for people. And it's amazing that this week's Torah portion shares the identical message. This week's Torah portion is Matot and Maseh, which concludes the entire book of Bamidbar, the Jewish people's 40 years of wandering in the desert. And you ask yourself, why did the Jews have to wander for so long? So at the end of this week's Torah portion, we have what is known as the Mem Beis Masaot. The Torah recounts all the 42 locations that the Jewish people traveled and encamped in the wilderness throughout the 40 years. They had 42 different encampments. And the rabbis say, why does the Torah have to review the 42 locations? And our rabbis give a very profound answer. The rabbis say that the journeys in the wilderness is reminiscent and a prototype for the journeys of every human soul in this world. We come out of Mitzrayim. The word Mitzrayim means narrow constraints, which means we push our way out of the birth canal. And our journey and our destination is ultimately Olam Haba, the world to come, which is like the promised land. But we all have to traverse for 40 years, which is metaphorically the lifespan of a person. And we all go through the various locations of encampments, different experiences and life journeys, twists and turns of the journey of life. But why does God put us through this vast wilderness of life with all of the challenges and all of the pitfalls and all of the different temptations along the way? As we see throughout the journeys of the Jewish people, yes, they made it to the promised land, but they had to go through many challenges, and many times they failed and succumbed. Why did God put them through all of this? And our rabbis say that now in hindsight, the Jewish people are able to look back and see how all of their journeys led them to their ultimate goal. And even the negative experiences were experiences that taught them lessons of life that enabled them to reach their next destination in life. And so too, every person goes through the journeys of life. And when we look back, sometimes we realize what we've gained, what we've taken from each and every experience. You see, because life can be compared to one big treasure hunt. We are all seekers in life. We are all on a search. And what are we searching for? We're not searching for only material gold and silver and precious metals and valuables. That's not the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is the inner treasures of life, what we discover within ourselves. We find ourselves, which metaphorically is a term, go find yourself. But the truth is, who am I? What are my values? What are my beliefs? What are my talents? What are my gifts that God gave me? What is my purpose in this world? What did God put me here to achieve, to accomplish in my lifetime? These are all questions every human being has to ask themselves. And we have to discover our relationship with God, our faith in God. We have to discover our communal interconnection with each other. These are the treasures in life that we are all out searching for. And this is the message of this week's Torah portion. Yes, we've gone through the wilderness, but we have to be able to look at our journeys and say, what have I learned? Who are the friends I've made and discovered along the journey of life? You know, tonight we're going to sit around the table for Shabbat dinner, and we begin every Shabbat dinner with the song of Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharet. We greet the angels who join us at the Shabbat table, and we ask them for their blessings for the coming week. But Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach says, who are the angels around the Shabbat table? And why can't we see the angels who attend our Friday night Shabbat table? And Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach answers beautifully, and he says, when you stand at the Shabbat table, of course we're welcoming the spiritual angels, but we're also looking at our spouse, at our children, at our friends, at our grandchildren perhaps around the table, our parents who are sitting at the table. They are the angels that God sent into our life. And that is the mission of life, to find the angel within ourselves and the angels within others. And that is the scavenger hunt, the treasure hunt that we are all on. And perhaps during this COVID-19, just like John Perry turned this crisis of COVID and lack of business into something that will be more memorable and everlasting, every one of us has to say, how can we turn the challenges of the times we're in into something beautiful, that we should extract the most beautiful, meaningful lessons and memories from this experience and go on the scavenger hunt that God put us on earth to achieve, to discover the true wealth. As someone once said, the true wealth of a person can be measured by their friends, by deepening our relationships, our friendships, our connections with others. Let me tell you about an angel who stood up for truth this week. He's a former Lakers basketball player, and his name is Kareem Abdul Jabbar. Kareem Abdul Jabbar looked around at the anti-Semitism that is spewing forth today from famous Hollywood and sports figures, and he was repulsed and disgusted by it. And so he wrote a op-ed piece in the Hollywood Reporter just 2 days ago. And the title of his talk of his op-ed piece was, Where is the Outrage Over Anti-Semitism in Sports and Hollywood? And he pointed out individuals like Ice Cube or Nick Cannon, who have said the most vehemently disgusting anti-Semitic things about Jews. As we know, we've seen this happening over the past few weeks. As the Black Lives Movement has risen, and he asks, if we are concerned about racism against our race and our culture, why aren't we equally concerned about racism and bigotry against Jews? But let me tell you that not only has Kareem Abdul Jabbar received tremendous backlash, including Nick Cannon, who went so far to tweet and say, did he get his 30 pieces of silver, referring to Judas, who they accuse of having brought about the death of their God. And the vehement and vitriol hatred and anti-Semitism was even more exposed as a result. But let me tell you what a good man Kareem Abdul Jabbar is, and why I have the deepest respect for him. In 1997, he went to Israel to play basketball and to share the love of basketball with Israelis. And on his trip, he went to visit Rabbi Israel Meir, the chief rabbi of Israel, who himself is a Holocaust survivor, who was rescued and liberated from the camps at the age of 8 years old, came to Israel and ultimately became the chief rabbi of Israel, as well as the chairman of Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Museum. And he came to show his respect for Rabbi Lau and for his story of being a survivor of the Holocaust, and to empathize and sympathize with the Jewish people. Rabbi Lau being a symbol of survival of the Holocaust and the rebirth of Eretz Yisrael, to show his respect and his sympathy and empathy for the Jewish people for what they've endured. And there's a video which you can watch where this Kareem Abdul Jabbar, this very towering figure, is standing with Rabbi Lau, and then they sit together and they share memories. And Rabbi Lau shows him photographs of himself, 8 years old, being liberated from the camps. And this is what Rabbi Israel Meir Lau, chief rabbi of Israel, said to Kareem Abdul Jabbar, and perhaps what left such a strong impression on Kareem Abdul Jabbar that 2 days ago he felt the need to speak out against anti-Semitism in the African American community. And I will quote to you what Rabbi Lau said to him in this famous meeting. He said to him that, I remember as an 8-year-old child how an African American soldier came up to me during the liberation, picked me up, and said to the other soldiers, look at this sweet kid. He isn't even 8 yet. This was the enemy of the Nazis? Did he threaten the Third Reich? Yet he is the one whom the Germans waged war and murdered millions like him. Rabbi Lau said, I'll never forget the love, the kindness of this African American soldier who liberated me from the camps. Yes, the Jewish people and the African American community in the past have stood together. And today, more than ever, we have to put away our differences. There is no room for anti-Semitism, as there is no room for racism and bigotry. There is only room in this world for love and for peace. And as we conclude the book of Bamidbar, we are on a journey in a vast wilderness, and there are many dangerous enemies and pitfalls in the wilderness. But let us realize that if we are going to travel together to a promised land, to a world that is healed from its misery, from its pain, from its infighting, we have to first learn to discover the goodness and the angelic being within each and every one of us, because only then can we have not only a Shabbat Shalom, but a world filled with Shalom, with peace. May this Shabbat, as we conclude the book of Bamidbar, bring Shalom, Aleinu va'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Shabbat Shalom.